Hi, and welcome to a short video over section 1.1. So this is the first section of material. The computer homework and the quiz over this section are due on the first Sunday of the course. So anyway, what is in this section? General introduction. This is a lot of terms and symbols, and we're basically going to go through these as a series of examples. And as I said, so we have all of these terms, and we're going to get to an example and kind of go through all of this. All right, so here is our example. We want to know the average amount of money that all first-year college students spend on school supplies at a certain college. All right, so let's just start with that sentence. I'm actually going to start with the population. The population usually contains the word all. So it would be all the students, specifically all the first-year students at this college. That is the population. Each individual thing or attempt that makes up the population would be an observational unit. So the observational unit is each individual first-year college student at this college. The variable is what are we measuring on each of these observational units. So what are we measuring on each individual college student? Well, we want to know how much money they spent on school supplies. So the variable is the amount of money on school supplies. There are two different types of variables. There are quantitative variables. This is a quantitative variable. A quantitative variable is a variable whose outcomes are numerical. So if I want to know how much money someone spent, that's going to be a number. So it's going to be $10, $100, $1,000, $370. It's whatever it is a number, so that's quantitative. The other type of variable is categorical. So we might want to know if there's a difference between how much money someone spends based on, gender. So we might have a certain amount for males. So if gender is a variable, it could be categorical. The outcomes are either, they don't have to be a certain number of outcomes, but the outcomes are not numbers. So male, female, etc. So the population, again, is all the first-year students at this college. Now, what makes statistics different than a lot of other subjects is we're usually basing things on incomplete information. So if somebody wants to know how much do all first-year students spend, they could ask all first-year students, but that might be very difficult to get the information from all of them. So instead of asking all of them, they take what's called a sample, which is a subset of the population. So it says we find that our sample of 100 students. So we wanted to know this about all students, or all first-year college students at ABC College. But the sample is just the 100 first-year students we actually asked. So, and samples will have sample size, which we're going to use a lowercase n. So in this case, n equals 100 because there are 100 students in this sample. Now that I look at this, I really should have made this bigger. Sorry about that. So, so now we have two things, one of which is going to be over the population and one of which is going to be over the sample. They're going to be similar but different. The population will have a parameter which will be a numerical summary of the entire population. For a quantitative variable, which is what we have, it'll be a mean or an average. So the parameter is the average amount of money spent by all first-year college students. So this would be an unknown number because we did not measure something on all all of the first year students. The symbol for this is the Greek letter mu. In general, parameters will have Greek letters as their symbols, at least in this course. So mu is going to be our population mean, and the Greek letter pi, which you probably used for 3.14 or so in geometry classes in the past, that is going to be used for a population proportion. For example, if on these 100 students we also measured, let's say the proportion that were female. So we might want to know the proportion of all students at this college that are female, or all first-year college students at this college that are female. That would be pi. So mu is the population mean. We do not know the population mean because we only actually got data on the sample. So the sample gives us a statistic, and you can think of this with alliteration. Population parameter, P and P. Sample statistic, S and S. So the statistic is usually a regular letter, though with often extra symbols on it. So the sample mean, or the mean amount of money spent by the 100 students, we're going to use X bar, or X with a bar over it. If you're typing this into the computer, X space bar or X dash bar are perfectly good ways to write that. And that value was $218.74, which I believe just came from the information of the problem. Yes, so we find that our 100 students have an average of $218.74, sorry. All right. Yeah, and that is basically the main, some of the main ideas from this first section. There's a lot of symbols. There's a lot of things. So let's make sure we talked about all of this. Observational units. Each individual person, so each individual, each thing, or each attempt that something is being measured on. Variable is what is being measured on each person, thing, or attempt. A quantitative variable, the outcomes are numerical. Categorical, the outcomes are not numerical. Population is the group of all observational units you're really trying to answer a question about. The sample is the observational units that are actually gathered, you actually gathered data on. The parameter is a numerical summary of the population. If you have a categorical variable, that's going to be a proportion. And if you have a quantitative variable, like our example, it's going to be an average or mean. The statistic is a numerical summary of the sample. Again, if the variable was quantitative, you'll have a mean, and if the variable is categorical, you'll have a proportion. It's just whether it's a proportion of the 100 students in the sample or all students at the college. The 100 students in the sample are a statistic. All the students at the college, something over all the students at the college, would be a parameter. So pi is my population proportion. Mu is my population mean. Those are parameters. P hat, which I didn't talk about, is the sample proportion. X bar is the sample mean. Those are statistics. And N is the sample size. And yeah, that's basically the ideas from the first section. Let me know any questions you have, and hope to hear from you soon. Thanks. Bye.